Hello and welcome to the Hustle Faithfully podcast. He's Ricardo.
And he's Jonathan.
We'd like to welcome you. Picking up from last week, we are going to be speaking about functioning and dysfunction.
Yes, we are.
Today's verse comes from Exodus
16, 2, and 3. I'm going to read it from the New Living Translation version. It reads, "There too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. If only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt, they moaned. There we sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. But now you have brought us into this wilderness to starve us all to death." Now you may ask yourself, why in the world are we talking about the children of Israel in doing this exodus out of Egypt and this time that they were in the wilderness? Well, the thing is, this is a prime example of a group of people that got used to functioning in a dysfunctional situation. And the thing that me and Jonathan wanted to touch on is the fact that they had gotten so used to being in that situation that they found a way to be happy in the midst of the thing that was killing them, the enslavement they were in. So while in the process of being brought out of the area in a place that they were being beaten, they were held in bondage. They were treated like second-class citizens. While they were in that situation, and then they were being brought out, led to the promised land, they actually got out there in a position where them getting out of bondage felt worse to them than being in bondage, because they remembered the meat pots and the bread that they had while enslaved and longed for it, and missed the fact that they were actually in a place where they were being killed and they were actually enslaved.
You get so familiar with your surroundings. You get so used to your life that you feel that it is normal life.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look, this is hypothetical. You look out and you see somebody that's living a life completely different than the life you live. And what are the thoughts that go through people's minds? They're lucky.
Right.
They were born to privilege, poverty, whatever the case may be. It's just their time. It's not mine, things of that nature. How much of our lives do we create ourselves?
The sad thing is, although our life and our identity is in Christ, most of our lives have been shaped in crisis. And so we end up creating a life out of that dysfunction, that crisis that we're in, because it shapes us. This is what we know. And so you grow out of what you know. So if your life has been full of whether it's abusive situations, whether it was a lack of money or whatever it is, or lack of a father in your life, whatever it is, that creates a dysfunctional state.
Right.
Now, mind you, all of us were born, and we were talking about this before the podcast, all of us was born into a dysfunctional family, because the first family, Adam and Eve, they themselves were dysfunctional.
Right.
So everybody after them has been born into dysfunction.
That's right. When I was coming up in school, there was a big saying, well, I'm from a dysfunctional family. Now you hear nobody say that, because everybody is.
Yeah.
Everybody's from dysfunction, no matter if you were born into poverty or you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like you said, there is dysfunction with every family, every relationship.
Yeah.
When you accept that and acknowledge that, you can work on it. You can really figure out the way to work through these situations, to work through the challenges together.
Right.
As a relationship, as people. We are all individuals that come together to form a relationship.
Yeah.
Whether that's a marriage, a friendship, a partnership, whatever the case may be. And to assume that there will not be dysfunction.
Right.
That's really just ludicrous.
Yeah.
So when you are faced with the dysfunction and it seems unsurmountable, how do you get past it? How do you get beyond it? How do you move on? What do you do?
Well, you can't do it on your own. That is one of the dumbest things in the world that you can possibly do. Now, I can speak from experience because I tried that for a very long time with trying to overcome the dysfunctional state that I was in. But the thing is, that's the thing that was most familiar. And because it was the most familiar, I would by default end up going back to it. So in order to be able to get out of it, I had to first be honest about what I knew, because there are blind spots, because you can be in dysfunction and be blind to the dysfunction because that's all you've ever seen.
Right.
So you're numb to it. So being around other people that will then people that can be honest with you, not just anybody, not yes men and all those things.
Right.
Somebody who will be honest and say, hey, that thing right there, that thing has to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you allow those people to speak into your life, but then you have to have the humility to be able to receive it and to not say, no, that's not real, because you don't see it. So you can say it's not real. That doesn't exist. But the thing is, blind spots are just that. They're blind spots. You don't see them. So you have to first and foremost admit that you have an issue, talk to people about the things that are known, people that you trust, and then allow them to speak into your life.
For sure. You know, how oftentimes do you go to work and you drive the same way, you take the same exits, you take the same road, you stop at the same places, you stop at the same gas station to get you a drink every single morning, every single time, every single day you go to work.
Right.
As human beings, we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And when you get in the dysfunction of, let's say, poverty, you get in the dysfunction of poverty.
Right.
You get so used to there's more, what's the saying? There's more month than there is money.
Yeah, right.
And you focus on that, that will continue to be the situation.
Yep.
Until you make that conscious effort, until you make that conscious decision to look at it differently, to find your dysfunction elsewhere. Because like we talked about, everybody has dysfunction. You focus on what you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on, well, here we go, it's this month, there's going to be more month than there is money. Figure out a way to change it.
Right.
Figure out a way to reduce your expenses, to increase your income, or better yet, both. And then you have dysfunction elsewhere. You can't tackle it all at one time.
Right.
You've got to stay focused and take it chunk by chunk, piece by piece. What happens when you're driving to work and there's really bad traffic ahead, so you take a detour?
Right.
It almost seems to throw you off a little bit, even though you're making the wise decision. You're going to get to work on time, early, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But you are on a completely different path.
Right.
And, you know, that's the same thing with life. When the path that you're on is not where you want to head, when the path that you're on is not where you want to go, when the path that you're on is not, the ending point is not where you want to end up, detour. Find the situations that are making it dysfunctional, change it around, and bring it to light and make changes and better your life, better your situation, better your drive to work.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's really interesting in the text that you read. The people in the text were willing to go back to sure death.
Right.
Because it's what they were used to. Death was their commonplace for all of them. The death was their
they were destined to die having not ever lived.
Right.
Because they were in a place where they had no freedoms. They were surrounded by people who saw them as less than. They were given the scraps and the leftover from the animals that were killed and all. Yeah, they had meat pots, but they were given the intestines and all these different things. They didn't get the choice cuts.
Right.
So they got scraps. So God didn't create them to live substandard. but they accepted substandard. That's all they knew. So when he decided to call them out and he made a way for them to leave, that substandard thinking was a part of their exodus. So even being in a situation where they lived at a standard that was less than what God created, they didn't know anything greater. They saw it, but they said, that's for them, not for me.
Right.
You know, that lifestyle they have, I see it, but that's not for me. This is my life. So it limits the ceiling, it lowers the ceiling on your beliefs. So they walked out and being led to the land of milk and honey. They're being led to a promised land. So in between the place where they were enslaved and the place where they will ultimately have every single thing they need, there was a tension between what was and what will be. So in that place, they got out there and got to panicking because they didn't see the things that they were promised, the milk and honey, but they defaulted to what they knew, the meat pots and the bread that was behind them, and missed the enslavement. That part they blocked out. Because people have a way of making something bad good,
right?
Because you block out all the bad and you find the things that allow you to function in it, and you forget the fact I'm actually being killed,
right?
You know, so that text was an important text for us to grab and discuss, because how many of us are doing it right now in our present lives?
That's right. That's right. What you accept is the way your life is going to be.
Yeah.
If you don't like something about your life, change it.
Yeah.
And I know that's said so easily. It rolls off the tongue so easy. It's not always as easy as putting it into practice as it is to say it.
Right.
However, when you really have something that you want to focus on, when you really have something that you want to grow or change, make that conscious effort and go at it day after day after day to change it. Create your dysfunction. There is dysfunction of not being able to pay a bill. And then there's a dysfunction of not being able or coming up short to pay for your Bugatti payment this month. Now, of course, those are two extremes, and that was done extreme for a very specific reason. The whole concept, though, is when you want to make a change in your life, change it. And it's not always easy, yet it is always worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go and you consciously make the effort and consciously make the decisions to pull from the dysfunction that you were in, you'll get there. I have a friend that his dad and all the siblings are completely different. His dad he's doing well now, yet he has struggled with drugs a lot of his life.
Right.
They didn't come from much of anything from a financial sense. Yet, one of the brothers owns a trucking fleet company, as well as several Airbnbs and hotels. Another one owns a zoo. They decided to pull out of the dysfunction of the family that they were born into to create more for themselves, to create more for their children, to create a better legacy. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you have to have tons of money to create a good legacy. That's not the point here at all. The point is they made a conscious effort. They really looked at their surroundings, at what they were up against, and they realized this dysfunction that I was brought up in, this dysfunction that I was born to, this dysfunction that most people just accept as, this is my life. They stopped it and they said, no, absolutely not. I'm in my second marriage. My first marriage, her mom had been married 6 or 7 different times. My parents were still together. There's dysfunction with my parents, of course, they're human beings. Yet when you look at it and say, her mom has been married 6 or 7 times, I don't even recall how many times it was. You're also taking on something that can easily be passed to your own children. So you also have to stand up and say, you know what, this generational curse, it stops right here. It stops right now.
Right.
Because that's where a lot, in my opinion, where a lot of dysfunction just continues on. It's what I was born to. It's just my life.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, change it. I do not want to model for my children being married 6
Right.
or 7 times. I'm in my second and final marriage. And my kids need to see that consistency.
Yeah, they do.
You know, that was the single largest challenge from me. I was born into a Christian family, so I'm not accustomed to divorce. Like I said, my parents are still married. They've been married for 40, 50 something years. And so divorce was foreign to me. My biggest fear in the whole situation was my kids are going to see divorce, and I don't want them to know that. I don't want them to understand it. Yet, sometimes you have to remove yourself from the dysfunction. You have to get away from it, or else it's going to continue to eat at you. It's going to continue to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
And so you have to be conscious about what is going on around you and who's pouring into your life and who wants to be there for their sake and who wants to be there to truly help you. And finding the right community, finding the right people is how you get past dysfunction, and a lot of prayer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That you have to pray your way through all of this.
Right.
There's no way to get through it if you're not praying your way through it. You know, the thing about the stuff that we face day to day, and not just one or two of us, we cannot localize something that's a global issue. You know, because it's easy to take things that are happening and make them personal or local to your own situation. But it's not just us that's dealing with these things. There's people all around the world that we don't know and won't know that are dealing with some of the same things. Just
Right.
because sin and dysfunction is a global issue, it's not my issue. You know, so first and foremost, don't take the dysfunction personally, even though it affects you personally.
Mm-hmm.
You interrupt it by not owning it. And when I say own your decisions, but don't own the dysfunction, because once again, dysfunction is not a personal thing, even though it affects you personally, it's a global issue. So, and it starts with sin. So being able to admit there's a problem and then identify the lie that you're believing about that problem. Like they believed in this text, they believed it was better to go back because they had the meat and the bread. So this lie that they told themselves pointed back at a problem that they were willing to settle for.
Mm-hmm.
So admitting there's a problem and then identifying the lie, because that meat and bread isn't worth that bondage that they were in, and then replace it with what's true. What's true for them is that they're being led out of this situation into a promised land where they will have all that they could ever want, and then things they didn't even know to ask for because their belief system was lower.
Right.
So that's where we ourselves in our present state, our present context, where we have to be in how we interact and how we see these things that we have going on in our life. We have to interrupt this violent verbiage. When I say violent verbiage, it's not, I'm going to whip you. It's saying things like you were just saying earlier. It's saying things that are that speak less in your life.
Right.
You know, you say things like, I'll never be successful. You know, I'll never have a happy family. I'll never get married. You know, all these things, this is violence against your own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you in being able to be around people like mentors, like you mentor a lot of people, being able to be around mentors help you create victorious vision.
Right.
To where you don't have the vision yourself, you're limited by your sight. So what you see and what you've seen limits what you're able to believe. So you get around other people who have been victorious. They help create a new vision so that your natural eyes don't get in the way of your mindset changing in a way where I can believe greater than what I can see. They couldn't believe greater than what they could see. All they could remember was the meat, the pots, and the bread. They couldn't see the promised land enough to keep moving forward and not murmuring and complaining.
Right. Right. You made a comment, I will never be married. I will never be successful. Your subconscious mind is nothing but a computer.
Mhm.
Your subconscious mind is the majority of your mind,
Right.
yet it does not have critical thought.
Mhm.
So when you tell yourself, I am this, I am that, your subconscious mind has no option other than to believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm here to challenge you today to pour into yourself, to pour into your mind, and to tell your mind who you are.
Right.
If that requires you every morning to wake up, roll out of bed, and say, I am a people and money magnet. I am going into the promised land. I am successful. I am slender. I am strong. I am this. I am that. Do it.
Yeah.
It might take a little while for you to manifest it, for it to actually happen. Yet, the reverse also happens. When you say, I am unsuccessful, you're right. When you say, I will never be married, you're right. I have somebody very near and dear to me
Mhm.
that is in his mid 40s, never been married. And he makes comments about how, the ladies just aren't out there, this, that, and the other. On the other hand, I see it completely different. I'm not even looking.
Mhm.
I'm not even in that market. I'm married. Yet you look around and everything that he's looking for is more than plentiful.
Yes.
Way more than plentiful. Yet he has put in his own mind that I will never find anybody.
Yeah.
The good women aren't out there. And it's true for him.
Yes, it is.
Because he has made it true for him just in what he tells himself. He has put on blinders by telling himself that they're not there. He has put on the blinders to see when they are there.
Yeah.
He misses them.
Mhm.
That's the same thing with somebody that is struggling financially.
Yeah.
When you say there is no work out there, yeah, there's work
Oh
everywhere.
yeah. Oh yeah.
When you say there's no money out there, well, I challenge you, look at the list of world's billionaires.
Mhm.
Their net worth is going up by billions in a day sometime. And we don't need to get into the subject. Well, they're doing something I'm not. Yeah, they are. Okay.
Right.
But here's the whole thing. You're not producing. And I am here to challenge you with a lot of it is belief. A lot of it is your mindset.
Mhm.
A lot of it is the BS that you have. BS, belief systems. Change your belief systems. Don't run back to the non-promised land because there's meat pots.
Right.
And there's bread.
Right.
And there's honey. What about run to the promised land where there's a nice juicy steak? Or for you vegetarians, there's good vegetarian food. I'm not exactly sure what vegetarians eat.
Right, steak the first time. Yeah, I'm stick with the steak. Oh man.
Move on to your promised land. Yeah. It is there, no matter what your struggle is.
Yeah.
I know struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know what it's like. And you don't stop. You keep going.
Right.
When you're faced with more bills than you have money, keep going. When you're faced with, well, I don't have enough food, so I want to run back to the land, to the world where I came back from, don't. Keep moving.
Right.
Keep progressing forward. Find a new business, find a new venture, find new friends. Hey, Ricardo, have you ever heard the concept? It's on bumper stickers. It's on the internet. It's everywhere. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yes, I have.
So I challenge every one of you that are listening. Look at who you're hanging out with. Look at who you're around. Are you hanging out with successful people? And that word is defined individually by everyone. Are you hanging out with successful people or non-successful people? If you smoke and you want to quit smoking, get away from the smokers. If you have a drug challenge, a drug issue, get away from the druggies. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. You were talking about mentoring. I have a couple that I mentor each week, and they were having challenges with their son.
Mhm.
I knew nothing about the friends. And I asked him, I said, I'm going to explain his friends to you. And I explained the friends, and they were just blown away. They said, Jonathan, how did you know? I said, because I can look at the behaviors that y'all are telling me that he has, and I can tell you who he's around.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want to be a better speaker? Get around speakers. You want to be a better business person? Get around better business people. If you are the smartest person in the room, find a new room. Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, man, these things that we're sharing right now, don't listen passively to what's being said right now. Because the worst thing you can do is have the information presented to you and you dismiss it with the I already know.
Right.
Or if you know, why does your life look like you don't? Because the one thing about it is when a farmer plants a seed, he knows it's going to grow because he's doing the work. So he expects there to be fruit or veggies or whatever it is on the other end.
Right.
But what he's not going to do is simply get the seeds. And because I have the seeds, I'm going to get something out of this. Well, you having them is the beginning of it. Sowing them, doing something with what you have is where the work is, but it's also where the fruitfulness comes from. So everything that's being shared right now, there's an opportunity for each of you to take something, because none of us have everything. God didn't give any of us everything, but he gave all of us something.
That's right.
What is that something that you've been given? What seed that's being given out now has been given out last week, or that will come next week, or that'll come from someone else that you've heard time and time and time again, but you've neglected not just getting it, but sowing it and then nurturing it. And the thing about it is, everything that you're going to produce will always go down before it comes up. So there's work, there's patience, but there's intentionality in doing that. But the only way you can get fruit from a seed is you have to disrupt the form or the shape of the seed in order for the fruit to come out. Because the seed can't stay in seed form. It can't stay in that hard shell that the fruitfulness is in. It has to change shape in order to produce the thing that's always in it. Look at yourself as a seed. You have to change shape. You got to get out of the form or the shape that you're in now. You have to disrupt where you are right now, what you're doing right now, in order to get out of you what God has put in you. What is that? You may ask yourself, or you may say, I don't know what that is. Well, guess what? There's 2 people here, and there's a Bible that we read that has all the information available to it. And I'm not saying we have all the answers. I'm saying we're willing to share what we have and then point to the resources that do.
For sure.
So just, I implore each of you, listen actively, then take what you've gotten and do something with it.
There's an old saying, knowledge is power.
Yes, sir.
I totally disagree. Knowledge is not power. There's plenty of people that run around and their life mission is to accumulate knowledge to prove that they are smarter than the next person. Yet, if you don't know how to apply that knowledge, what good is it? Accurate knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Yet again, I disagree.
Yeah.
You can have the accurate knowledge in order to change your life, have the accurate knowledge in order to succeed. Yet, if you don't know how to apply it, what good is it?
Right.
Yet, Accurate applied knowledge. Now that is power.
Mm.
When you have the accurate knowledge and you apply it,
Right.
that's when you will begin to see an uptick in what you're doing.
Amen to that.
Accurate applied knowledge is power.
Amen. Amen. And so Jonathan has just given you all a key to how to create what you want out of what you have. There's things available to you right now in your life right now, resources available. As he said, accumulating knowledge in and of itself isn't enough. Assimilating knowledge is much greater because assimilated knowledge is understanding. And then you're talking about actively applying what you've accumulated and assimilated, and you apply it to your life. That's wisdom in doing so. So we're offering knowledge, but it's your job to now assimilate and do something with that knowledge.
That's right.
And hopefully you will.
Your life will be the same in 5 years from today,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of two things. Number one, the books you read.
Amen.
And number two, those that you associate with, those that you put yourself around. You show me who you're around, you show me the books you're reading, and I can somewhat accurately predict where you will be in 5 years,
Right.
granted you continue on that path. It's a fail-proof plan. In order to move to that next level, it will be uncomfortable. Everybody gets comfortable in their comfort zone. And comfort zones are where dreams, hopes, desires, and aspirations go to die.
Dangerous place.
Stay out of your comfort zone. Growth requires constant discomfort. Ricardo, you made a comment.
Yeah.
You said that everything that you produce must go down before it comes up.
Yeah.
So what we'll talk about next week is planting that seed. Planting those seeds, whether it be of faith, of fear, planting those seeds of success or failure. What seeds are you planting?
Right.
What are you prepared to go through in order to get to? Everybody must go through something to become something. Everybody must go through something to become something. What are you going through? What are your challenges? And how do you get through them?
Right.
How do you progress to that next level? Next week, we will be chatting about this. Everything you produce must go down before it comes up. What exactly does that mean, Ricardo?
Well, to me, it means whenever there's intention, there's going to be disruption. In order for you to get out of the seed which you intend to get, you intentionally sow it, but then you have to disrupt the seed in order to get out of it what will produce the fruit. So whenever there's intention, there will be disruption. There has to be.
Join us next week as we discuss everything that you produce must go down before it comes up. This episode of Hustle Faithfully was brought to you by The Unscripted Event. Next Unscripted Event is coming up August the 11th through the 13th in beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida.
Man.
Go to www.theunscriptedevent.com. Get your ticket now and join everybody in a little less than 3 weeks. We'll see you soon. Have a great, blessed, and unstoppable week.
Yes, guys. See you later.
Thank you for listening to Hustle Faithfully. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, for another inspirational word from Jonathan Ellis, the champion maker, and Ricardo McNeely. Again, that is next Thursday, 12 noon Eastern, with Hustle Faithfully. Until then, stay positive, stay motivated. Much love.